marriage. You want to marry my daughter? You, Chinedu the fisherman. Is this not the same boy that struggles to feed himself? Chinedu, I beg, don't embarrass yourself. What do you have? I can't marry a man that cannot even buy common cosmetics. Please carry yourself and go. If you are looking for a wife, take this one. She is not useful to me. She is my late husband's child, and I have carried her burden long enough.
Hey there, pour a cup of tea, get comfy, and let your heart listen. The story's about to start. Welcome to Tales Vibe, where laughter and lessons flow together. If you love a good story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more tales every week, and please tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to know where our story family is tuning in from. Chinedu stood in front of Mama Adeobi's house, his heart steady, but his mind firm. He had thought about this moment for days. He knew he didn't have much, but he also knew he was honest and hardworking. That was enough for him to take the bold step. Mama Adeobi came out slowly, wiping her hands on her wrapper. Attica stood behind her, twisting her face like she already knew why he came. Chinedu greeted them politely. Mama Adeobi, I came to ask for Attica's hand in marriage. I may not be rich, but I will take care of her. For a moment, nobody said a word. Mama Adeobi looked at him from head to toe as if he had said something funny. Then she burst into loud laughter. Marriage? You want to marry my daughter? You? Chinedu the fisherman? She clapped her hands. Is this not the same boy that struggles to feed himself? Look at your slippers, look at your shirt. You want to marry Attica? Attica hissed and stepped forward. Chinedu, I beg, don't embarrass yourself. What do you have? I can't marry a man that cannot even buy common cosmetics. Please carry yourself and go. Their words hit him hard, but he kept his face straight. He didn't come expecting praise, but he didn't expect this level of insult either. Still, he remained calm. Mama Adeobi continued, shaking her head and laughing. My daughter must marry a rich man, not someone that goes to the river every morning and comes back with small fish. You cannot marry Attica. Try again next life. Chinedu nodded slowly. I understand. He was about to turn and leave when Mama Adeobi called out suddenly. Neka, come out here. Neka stepped out quietly, her hands still holding a small broom. Her dress was old, and her eyes were tired. She kept her head down, afraid of the attention. Mama Adeobi pointed at her with irritation. If you are looking for a wife, take this one. She is not useful to me. She is my late husband's child, and I have carried her burden long enough. If you want a wife from this house, take Neka. That is all I can offer you. Neka froze. Shame filled her chest, but she said nothing. Chinedu looked at her, really looked. She was simple, quiet, and gentle. Behind the sadness in her eyes, he saw a kind of strength he couldn't explain. He turned back to Mama Adeobi. I will marry Neka. Neka lifted her head in shock. Mama Adeobi waved her hand dismissively and walked inside. Chinedu looked at Neka one more time and said softly, I will come back. Chinedu kept his word. 3 days after Mama Adeobi pushed Neka toward him like she was nothing, he returned with 2 elders from his village. They carried a small keg of palm wine, a few tubers of yam, and an envelope with a little money. Everything required for a simple knocking. When they reached Mama Adeobi's compound, she welcomed them with a smile that did not touch her eyes. It was clear she wasn't pleased, but she enjoyed the chance to show she controlled the situation. The elders greeted her, and everyone sat down. The formal knocking began. We came because our son, Chinedu, wishes to marry your daughter, the oldest elder said. Mama Adeobi raised her hand quickly. Not Attica, make it clear. It is Neka he wants. That is the one I am giving. The elders nodded. Chinedu said nothing. He knew arguing with her would only make things worse for Neka. Neka stood behind the kitchen door, listening with her heart in her throat. Nobody asked her if she wanted this marriage. Nobody asked her how she felt. Her life was being decided like she was a forgotten item on a shelf. Mama Adeobi collected the palm wine and yam with little interest. Since he has chosen Neka, no problem. Let them marry. She has stayed long enough in my house. The elders fixed a date, 3 days from that afternoon. Everything happened too quickly for Neka to understand. One moment she was sweeping the compound, and the next she was being pushed into a marriage she never dreamt of. When the visitors left, Mama Adeobi faced her. You will marry him whether you like it or not. I don't want trouble from you. Pack your things and get ready. In fact, you should even thank me. At least someone wants you. Neka felt her chest tighten. She wanted to cry but held it in. Crying in that house only brought more insults. The wedding day came quietly. No drummers, no neighbors gathering, no excitement. Only a few elders, the exchange of palm wine and brief prayers. That was all. Nneka wore a wrapper borrowed from a friend in the village. She didn't smile, and she didn't look at anyone. When Chinedu approached her to take her hand, she kept her eyes low. She wasn't angry, she was simply scared. Everything felt like a dream she couldn't wake up from. As they walked away from the compound together, people whispered behind them. She will suffer. Marrying a poor fisherman? God help her. Her stepmother didn't even try. Nneka heard every word, but she kept walking. Chinedu glanced at her gently, just once. He didn't say much, but in his heart he made a quiet promise. She would never suffer in his hands. The whispers from the village still echoed in Nneka's mind as she followed Chinedu to his small home. Her feet felt heavy, and her heart beat fast. Everything had happened too quickly. One moment she was in Mama Adeobi's house, and the next she was somebody's wife. When they reached Chinedu's compound, he paused and opened the wooden door gently. "Nneka, you can come in," he said, his voice soft and careful. She stepped inside with slow movements. The house was small and simple. A mat was placed neatly on the floor, a clay pot stood in one corner, and a few personal items were arranged modestly. Nothing extravagant. Nothing loud. Just quiet. Chinedu stood behind her. "I know this is new for you," he said, "but you are safe here. I will not trouble you." Nneka didn't answer. Her throat felt tight. She placed her small bag beside the wall and folded her hands together. All she could think about was Mama Adeobi's last words. "You should even thank me. At least someone wants you." That night, she lay on the mat, facing the wall. Chinedu stayed on the other side, respecting the space between them. She cried silently, wiping her tears quickly so he wouldn't hear. She didn't understand why her life always felt heavy. Chinedu heard her sniffing, but he said nothing. Instead, he faced the opposite side and prayed in his heart that she would one day see kindness in the world. The next morning, Nneka woke before him and swept the small compound. She was used to working early, and keeping busy made her mind calmer. When Chinedu stepped outside, she moved aside quickly, unsure of what he expected from her. "Nneka," he said gently, "you don't have to rush to do anything. Take your time." She nodded but said nothing. Days passed quietly. Nneka cooked small meals, cleaned quietly, and avoided eye contact. Chinedu went fishing every morning and returned in the afternoon, always keeping his distance so she wouldn't feel pressured. When he brought home anything from the market, he placed it on the table without making a big deal out of it. Each evening, Nneka sat by the doorway, thinking about her new life. She didn't hate Chinedu, she just didn't know him yet. But she noticed something: he never raised his voice. He never complained. He never treated her the way she was treated in Mama Adeobi's house. One night he said, "Nneka, I know this marriage started in a hard way, but I want you to feel free here. I will not hurt you." For the first time, Nneka looked at him directly. His eyes were calm. She didn't say a word, but something small and warm settled quietly in her chest, a feeling she hadn't known for a long time. As days passed, Nneka slowly settled into the quiet routine of her new home. She still moved carefully, unsure of what might offend Chinedu, but she noticed something new every day. He never acted like the men Mama Adeobi used to compare him to. One morning, while she was washing a few plates outside, Chinedu returned from fishing earlier than usual. Instead of walking past her, he paused. "Nneka, good morning," he greeted with a small smile. She nodded. "Good morning." He dropped his fishing net gently on the ground. "I brought something for you." From the small nylon bag in his hand, he brought out a bar of soap and a small tin of body cream. Nneka blinked in surprise. Nobody had ever bought her something simply, because they wanted to. "It's nothing big," he said quickly, worried she might misunderstand. "I just thought you might need them." She swallowed and whispered, "Thank you." Chinedu nodded and went inside without saying anything more. He didn't want to make her uncomfortable. That evening, Nneka watched him from the doorway as he repaired his fishing net. He worked quietly, focused, and peaceful. She realized he was not pretending. This was who he truly was. The next day, he offered to teach her how to mend a torn net. "You don't have to learn if you don't want to," he said gently. "I just thought it might keep your mind busy." She hesitated, then moved closer. "Show me," she said softly. He explained each step at her pace. When her fingers tangled the thread, he laughed lightly, not mocking but warm. "You will get it," he said. "I also made plenty mistakes at first." For the first time since marriage, Nneka smiled a little without thinking. Chinita caught the smile and paused. It felt like a blessing. Later that week, something unexpected happened. Chinita slipped while trying to catch a stubborn fish and fell straight into the shallow water. When he stepped out dripping wet, looking confused, Neka burst into quiet laughter. Real laughter. He looked at her, surprised, then joined her with a soft laugh of his own. From that day, something changed. Neka started placing his food with care. She waited for him to return from the river. She began asking simple questions, and he answered with patience. One night as they sat outside, he said quietly, "Neka, I want you to know something. I didn't marry you because I pitied you. I married you because I saw someone worth caring for." Her heart trembled at his words. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She didn't say anything yet, but inside her, a small seed of love began to grow, slow, gentle, and real. Neka didn't sleep much that night. Chinita's words kept ringing gently in her mind. "I married you because I saw someone worth caring for." She turned those words over and over, trying to understand why they softened something inside her. The next morning, she found herself waiting by the doorway as he prepared to leave for the river. She didn't plan it. Her feet simply took her there. "You're leaving?" she asked quietly. Chinita looked at her with a little surprise. "Yes, I'll be back before noon." He paused. "Do you need anything?" She shook her head. "No, I just wanted to greet you." It was the first time she had spoken to him with ease. Chinita noticed, but he didn't push it. "Thank you, Neka," he said before walking away. As the days passed, their lives slipped into a rhythm, soft, steady, and warm. Neka began cooking the meals he liked, even before he asked. When he returned from fishing tired, she would collect his basket and help him sort out the good catch from the bad. She still didn't talk much, but her silence was no longer fear. It was becoming comfort. One afternoon, Chinita invited her to follow him to the riverbank. "You don't have to come," he said, "but it's peaceful. You may enjoy watching." She agreed. Not because she wanted to see the river, but because she wanted to spend time with him. Chinita paddled the small canoe with easy strokes while she sat quietly inside, holding the side. She didn't know when the fear faded, but at some point, she began to relax. He taught her how to dip the net, how to pull it, how to feel when it caught something. She made mistakes, and he teased her lightly. "Ah, my wife, be gentle. The fish are not fighting you." Neka laughed, a soft, natural sound, and Chinita stared at her for a moment, taken by how beautiful she looked when she smiled without thinking. That evening, as they walked home, she walked closer to him than usual. Their arms brushed once, and she didn't move away. When they reached the compound, she prepared his meal and sat with him while he ate. Later that night, she turned toward him on the mat. "Chinita," she said quietly. He looked at her immediately. "Yes, Neka?" There was a pause long enough for him to hear her heartbeat. "I am happy here," she whispered. "I didn't know I could feel this way." He reached for her hand carefully, not rushing. "Neka, you deserve happiness." She tightened her fingers lightly around his. That was the moment they both knew love had truly begun to grow. The warmth between Neka and Chinita continued to grow in the weeks that followed. Each day felt lighter than the one before. Neka woke early, smiling to herself as she prepared breakfast. Chinita returned home with small gifts from the market. Sometimes fruit, sometimes simple jewelry. Their home, once quiet and uncertain, now felt alive. One peaceful afternoon, Neka sat outside washing clothes while Chinita repaired a fishing net nearby. She looked up at him, studying the calm way he worked. It still amazed her how gentle he was. "Chinita," she called lightly. He glanced at her. "Yes, Neka?" "Thank you for everything," she said, her voice soft but sure. He smiled. "I should be the one thanking you." Before she could respond, loud sounds echoed through the village, talking drums and sharp metal gongs. The sudden noise made Neka stop washing. Chinita paused too. Villagers began rushing toward the square, talking loudly. Neka looked at him. "What is happening?" Chinita wiped his hands on his cloth. "It must be an announcement from the palace." Her eyes widened slightly. Palace news rarely came without reason. They followed the crowd slowly. As they reached the edge of the square, the king's messenger stood on a raised platform, dressed in royal attire. He lifted his staff and commanded silence. "People of Enugu," he boomed. "His Royal Majesty sends this message. The Crown Prince, Prince Obinna, will return in 2 weeks. A grand ceremony will be held. On that day, he will choose a wife from the maidens of the kingdom." Excited shouts filled the air. Girls touched their hair, straightened their wrappers, and whispered to each other. Mothers began plotting how to present their daughters in the best way. Mama Adeobi pushed through the crowd with Adiku beside her. She held her daughter's hand tightly. Adiku, this is your time, Mama Adeobi whispered sharply. The prince must notice you. You will become royalty. Attica lifted her chin proudly. Nobody can compete with me. Neka stood quietly beside Chinedu, watching the scene. She felt no connection to the excitement, and she wasn't bothered. Her life was somewhere else now, in the small home she shared with a man who cared for her. But Chinedu's expression changed. He stared ahead with a seriousness she had never seen on his face. His jaw tightened slightly. Neka touched his arm gently. Are you all right? He nodded, though he didn't look at her. Yes, I'm fine. But inside him, the truth he had hidden for months began to rise. The prince returning. The ceremony approaching. The secret he carried was about to step out of its hiding place. And he wondered if Neka's heart would survive the truth that was coming. The days following the announcement were filled with noise and excitement across Enugu. Everywhere Neka turned, she heard people discussing the prince's return. Maidens rushed to tailors, mothers argued over fabrics, and everyone waited for the ceremony. But in Chinedu's small home, life stayed quiet. What worried Neka was not the prince or the ceremony, it was Chinedu's silence. Since the announcement, he smiled less and spoke only when necessary. He tried to act normal, but the change was clear. The morning of the ceremony arrived. The drums started again, louder than before. Villagers hurried toward the palace square, dressed in their best. Mama Adeobi practically dragged Adiku along, adjusting her wrapper every minute. This is your moment, Mama Adeobi kept whispering. The prince will see your beauty today. Attica nodded proudly. He won't look at anybody else. Neka watched them from a distance, her hands folded. She didn't envy them. She simply wished them well. She was about to step back into the house when she noticed Chinedu standing still, staring in the direction of the palace. Are you not going? She asked gently. Chinedu shook his head. No, my place is here. Neka smiled a little, not understanding the deeper meaning behind his words. I will stay with you then. He looked at her with soft eyes, but his heart was heavy. Today would change everything, whether he liked it or not. Meanwhile, at the palace square, the crowd had gathered. Elders sat in front, mothers fanned their daughters, and children ran around. The king soon rose from his seat, lifting his staff for silence. My people of Enugu, he began. Today marks the return of my son, Prince Obinna. But before he chooses a wife, there is something you must know. The crowd leaned forward. For many months, the prince has been living among you, not as royalty, but as an ordinary man. He wanted to understand the life of the people. He wanted to find love that was real. Gasps filled the air. Mothers grabbed their daughters. Attica's eyes widened as she searched the crowd. The king continued. Today, the prince will reveal himself. The king's guards stepped aside, clearing a path. All heads turned. And from the center of the gathered crowd, a familiar figure walked forward, calm, steady, and dressed in royal attire that sparkled under the morning light. It was Chinedu. The same Chinedu Mama Adeobi insulted. The same Chinedu Adiku rejected. The same Chinedu Neka married without knowing the truth. Shock spread through the square like fire. Chinedu, voices screamed. Is he the prince? Mama Adeobi's legs gave way. Attica's face drained of color. Prince Obinna had finally stepped out of hiding. And life in Enugu would never be the same again. The moment Chinedu revealed himself in the palace square, the entire crowd froze. Even the drums stopped. People blinked, rubbed their eyes, and stared again, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. The poor fisherman. The quiet young man. The one nobody paid attention to. He was Prince Obinna, the billionaire heir of Enugu. Mama Adeobi, who had insulted him without mercy, fainted on the spot. Attica grabbed her head tie, shocked beyond words. And the villagers whispered loudly, each one reminding the other that they had looked down on the prince without knowing who he was. But while the crowd buzzed Chinedu's, no Prince Obinna's, mind was on only one person, Neka. He bowed before the king, who placed a hand on his shoulder and said, My son, you have chosen with your heart. Where is your wife? Obinna smiled softly. She is not here, father. She does not know her husband is a prince. The crowd erupted again. Mothers dragged their daughters closer, hoping he would change his mind. But his eyes held firm. I already found my wife, he repeated. Her name is Neka. Back at the house, Neka sat alone, wondering why the drums had stopped so suddenly. She was rinsing vegetables when she heard footsteps, many footsteps. She looked up, confused. Then she froze. Obinna, dressed in full royal attire, walked toward her with palace guards behind him. The man she married quietly, the man who fixed fishing nets and brought her small gifts, he stood before her as a billionaire prince. Her hands shook. Chinedu? He stepped closer, his voice low and gentle. Nneka, forgive me for hiding who I am. I wanted someone who would love me for my heart, not my wealth. She stared at him, speechless. Everything around her seemed to stop. The truth settled slowly. This humble man she'd grown to love was not poor. He was powerful, respected, and wealthy beyond imagination. Her eyes filled with tears. You're the prince? Yes, he said softly. But I'm still the same man you cook for, the man you laughed at by the river, the man you told you loved. That was when Nneka's tears fell. She moved forward and hugged him tightly. I didn't love you because of money, she whispered. I loved you because you were kind. He held her close. That is why you are my wife. The villagers who followed him murmured with awe. Many bowed their heads, ashamed of how they had treated her. From that moment, Nneka was no longer the forgotten stepdaughter. She was the wife of a billionaire prince, chosen not by chance but by love. Nneka's life changed the moment she embraced Obinna in front of the villagers. Word spread quickly through Enugu. The prince had chosen a wife, and it was the quiet girl everyone overlooked. People who once ignored her now spoke her name with respect. Some were shocked, others jealous, but most were simply amazed at how fate had turned. 1 week later, preparations began for the grand royal wedding. This time, nothing was quiet. Nothing was rushed. The palace staff moved from house to house with invitations bearing the royal seal. None of the villagers could remember a wedding this important. When Mama Adeobi received her invitation, she held it with trembling hands. Shame covered her face, but she knew the invitation was not out of obligation. It was because Nneka still had a forgiving heart. Meanwhile, in the palace, Nneka was being prepared for her new life. She tried on outfits made with the richest fabrics, jewelry crafted by goldsmiths, and shoes brought from Lagos and abroad. She stood in front of the large mirror, hardly recognizing herself. Obinna walked in quietly, watching her with a smile. You look beautiful, he said. Nneka turned shyly. All this still feels like a dream. He took her hand. You deserve it. The wedding day arrived quickly. From morning, the palace grounds were filled with people. Chiefs, elders, businessmen, politicians, and villagers all gathered. Royal guards stood in perfect lines. Drummers beat rhythms that echoed through Enugu. Nneka stepped out in a rich George wrapper, the coral beads on her neck shining. Her smile was gentle but full of confidence she had never known. Women whispered with admiration. She looks like a queen already. No wonder the prince chose her. Obinna approached her dressed in royal attire trimmed with gold. His eyes never left hers as he stood beside her. The ceremony began. Elders performed the traditional rites. Kola nuts were presented. The royal wine was poured. Then came the moment everyone waited for. Nneka knelt gracefully and presented a cup of palm wine to Obinna. He accepted it with pride. The crowd erupted in cheers. The king blessed them, and the celebration continued with dancing, singing, and feasting. People talked about how love had lifted Nneka from a neglected corner to the center of royalty. Even Mama Adeobi, seated quietly at the back, wiped tears as she watched her stepdaughter shine. By the end of the day, Obinna looked at his new bride and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me, even without knowing who I was." Nneka smiled. "I chose your heart, not your crown." And so the humble girl became a royal wife, not by force, not by luck, but by true love. After the royal, billionaire wedding, Nneka settled into her new life with a calm joy she had never known. The palace was full of activity each day, but her heart remained steady. She woke every morning beside Obinna, grateful for the path that led her to him. The girl who once feared every word from her stepmother now walked confidently through corridors filled with respect. A few weeks after the wedding, Nneka requested permission to visit Mama Adeobi's house. Obinna agreed without hesitation and offered to go with her, but she gently refused. "I want to see them first on my own," she said. When she arrived at the familiar compound, Mama Adeobi and Atiku rushed out. Their faces carried guilt and regret. Mama Adeobi fell to her knees immediately. "Nneka, my daughter, forgive me. I didn't treat you well. I didn't see your value. Please, find it in your heart to pardon me." Atticus stood behind her, wiping her eyes. "I am sorry, Nneka. I spoke to you carelessly. I didn't know better." Nneka's eyes softened. She did not come to judge them. She remembered the girl she once was, the one who cried quietly at night, longing for kindness. She would not let bitterness grow where love had finally entered her life. She helped Mama Adeobi stand and held her hand. "It is in the past," Nneka said gently. "I forgive both of you." Tears ran freely down their faces. The burden they carried lifted in that moment. When she returned to the palace, Obinna welcomed her with open arms. "I knew you would forgive them," he said. "Your heart has always been pure." Life continued with peace. Obinna soon took on more royal duties, and when the king passed away some years later, he was crowned the new ruler of Enugu. Nneka became queen beside him, gracious, calm, and beloved by the people. Under their leadership, the kingdom prospered. Obinna's businesses expanded, bringing wealth and development to the community. Nneka focused on helping women and children, especially those who felt unseen like she once did. People loved her because she ruled with empathy, not authority. In time, their home was filled with the laughter of 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. They grew up watching their parents show love, fairness, and humility every day. Sometimes Obinna and Nneka would sit together in the quiet of the evening and talk about how everything started, from a forced marriage to hidden identity to a love strong enough to change their world. What began in pain had become a life full of peace. And together, they lived happily ever after. And that's the end of today's tale. We hope it brought a smile, a thought, or a little bit of magic to your day. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to Tales Vibe for more weekly tales, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from our story family all around the world. Until next time, keep your heart open, your imagination alive, and remember, laughter and lessons always go hand in hand. See you in the next story.